It Happened on the Job, the podcast for relatable conversations with contractors. Sponsored by Goodman Insurance.
Welcome to It Happened on the Job. We are your podcast for relevant conversations with contractors, hopefully a little bit of entertainment as well. My name's Mike. That's Brian.
Hello, everybody. And today we have with us Mr. Doug Reitz, president and owner of Mark Wilson Construction.
Brian.
Am I right on the mic?
We are. No. We are episode 45.
Oh,
we got to get that
so
in there.
Excited.
Episode 45
Sorry,
today.
I'm all flustered today.
I'm just proud to be a part of 45.
There you go.
Doug, how you doing today?
Doing real well. How about you?
Good, thank you. Good. Hey, give us some background on you and your company and how you came about.
Wow, how I came about. Graduated from Fresno State, but it was I thought I wanted to be an architect at one point, and took some architecture classes. Started at Fresno State in '85, and started taking architecture classes. And there was one moment of realization that came in when I realized probably not architecture being the best for me. And we had a big project that we had to do, and a rendering. We had to put those renderings up in front of the entire class so everybody could see them. And I worked deep into the night before. And I tell you what, I was proud of my drawing and my rendering. We all had to do the same building, and I couldn't wait to see it. And then I put it up in front of the class against everybody else's. And I kind of saw that mine was not as good as everybody else.
Which one of these is not
figures.
like the other one?
It was a real telltale time. And then right after class, a guy named Rich McEwen, who was the professor, who I'd known for quite a while, calls me over and says, "Hey, Doug, did you ever think about doing construction?" And that kind of sealed the deal for me. So I went into the construction path and absolutely loved it. It was much more, I didn't think outside of the box enough. I was much more, I want to be organized. I want to put people together. And it really just felt great. So graduated in 91 from Fresno State and went to work for a local company that I always wanted to go to work for. And started off as a project clerk down at a hospital in Visalia, California, and learned a ton down there. The project manager that hired me, I had to make a decision between two companies. And on the Thursday before I had to make the decision, I got a call from Jim, and he said, "You know, Doug, I'd really like to hire you." And I said, "Great, when can I come in for an interview?" And he says, "I don't need an interview." I said, "Well, what do you need to know?" He goes, "You know what? I saw that you were the mascot at Fresno State. And if you've got enough energy to do that, I want you to come work for me." And I'm thinking, man, I just put 6 years of my life into a college degree. And
all you care is that I was running around in a bulldog costume.
Yeah. So, and I hear we got a little bit of a rivalry there, don't we?
Yeah, a little bit. We had a conversation about this. USC and Fresno State. Yeah.
So it turned out great. Jim was a great guy, taught me a lot. And over the next 24 years, I grew from being a project clerk to vice president of the company. It was about $150 million a year company, so nothing huge, but for the Valley, it was pretty big. And really got to a point to where the company was going to split, go a little bit more corporate. And at that point in my career, I wanted to be a little bit more family-oriented and client-oriented, that type of thing, not go up and down the state, just keep it local. And so I went out and I started talking to some people that were here local and saying, "Hey, is this the right thing for me?" I'd been there 24 years. And I really wanted to get my philosophy down of how did I really feel and what did I want to do. So talked to Mark Wilson just, by accident. And I said, "Hey, what are you doing over here and how are you doing it?" And he goes, "Are you looking to leave?" And I go, no. I'm just trying to get together. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on in my life, right? And I was about 46, 47 years old. And I thought about it for a few months. And Mark, just by happenstance, had somebody leave who was supposed to take over the company for family reasons. He moved, back to Utah. And I went back to Mark and I said, "You know what? Let's talk a little bit." And we had a great conversation. He had actually come from the same company originally that my former boss for 24 years had been. And the philosophies were very similar. He stayed within 60 miles. And the planets just really aligned. It worked out really, really well. We had the same philosophy. It was easy to come over here. And we started an earnout about 5 years ago. And it was just like being home. It's an absolutely fantastic place. The people are wonderful. And as of January 1st, signed the contracts and became owner of Mark Wilson Construction.
That's
Very
awesome.
nice.
Is Mark still involved at all, or sit on the board, or help you out in any way? Or
Absolutely, he's still here. Love having him here. The guy has such a good strategy for bidding work, seeing what's going on in the market. He does not want to retire yet. He still loves coming in and loves getting the advice from him. He's seen so much over his career, so he's been a real inspiration, and love working with him still. He's an absolutely awesome individual.
That's very cool. That's a pretty rad story.
Yeah.
So what kind of work are you guys doing over there? Or what's your niche, if you will?
Pretty well diversified. We do a lot on the commercial side, a lot of retail, commercial, that type of thing.
New construction or like TI stuff?
Both new construction and TIs. And we do a lot of churches and we do a lot of schools. So we try to stay in the public and the private market. And for the Valley being in 60 miles, we do about 45 million a year. And that keeps everybody being home every night, which is great.
Yeah.
And it's a good competitive area for us.
So what were you doing for that 5-year period, that 5-year earn-out period? What was your kind of role with them at that point?
Mark, again, had a great philosophy. Coming from a $150 million company, being a vice president, he offered me a job as a project manager. And his philosophy was,
you got to learn it, right?
Yeah.
you got to learn the company.
Yeah.
I want you to work with every single superintendent, every administrator. I want you to see how the company runs. And I said, absolutely, I'm in. So I started off after a year. He goes, sounds like you want to take on more. And I said, yeah, I'd love to take on more. So slowly started handing over duties. So it was a very slow transition of me becoming president over a 3-year period. And for the last 2 years, I was president, and then, just took over owning the company.
And I'm sure that probably helps out from a respect standpoint, or at least from the people that you're leading there. You're not just stepping in and being that dictator from day one. Like you got your boots on the ground, and you've been in the trenches with a lot of those people, and
right,
kind of shown that you're willing to put in the work also.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why Mark's plan was so beautiful, being slow like that. It wasn't, a lot of people will come into a company and say, hey, I did it this way over here. I'm going to do it this way.
Right.
For you guys, everybody change. And I really got to step back and learn how Mark had done it for 20 years. And then we could gradually tweak things as we grew. And he was doing about 18 million. So we've just about doubled in 5 years.
Wow.
And still kept it nice and small. We've got 27 people. And it's fun to come to work again.
So you guys are being only 27 employees, and you guys are just basically managing projects then, right? Not a lot of labor other than project management labor.
Yeah, we've got a couple of carpenters that will keep busy doing some of the small TIs, little modernizations where we've got some framing and concrete to build. But these guys do drywall and they do plaster and framing. They really got everything down, so they're absolutely wonderful.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what's it like? Talk about that process of managing. Without having as much, labor in-house or, self-performing a lot of that work. Obviously, there's management of all those different subs and that whole process. Mm-hmm. What does that look like for you guys, and how do you guys manage that relationship?
The subs are our lifeblood. They are so good at what they do. And here in the Valley, I don't know how much you know about San Joaquin Valley, but about 30 years ago, there was so much litigation, especially in the school market. Everybody was just out for themselves, wanted to do what they had to do just to get theirs. And slowly, and I've got to attribute this part to my old boss, Tim, he really came in and said, no, we're all going to get along. We're going to communicate. We're going to collaborate. We're going to listen to each other. And slowly all that litigation went away. And there's quite a few companies here in the Valley that have built a reputation for just getting along. And if something bad happens, we know we're in for it for the long term. And everybody's going to help out and ease the pain just a little bit. With that type of methodology, it's really helped us on bid day. They know that people are going to get paid on time. They know that we're going to work with them if there's a scope gap, and we're not going to take them to court. So that feel here within that 60 miles has really, really smoothed out the construction industry and our projects as well. Everybody just wants to dig in to get it done.
So it sounds like you guys got a pretty good, like a core group of subcontractors that are working well together. Is it what have you seen from other subs that are trying to get into that market? Is there any kind of vetting process, or how do you guys look at them if it's somebody new that maybe because somebody you haven't worked with, or maybe somebody you work with for a while is booked up or whatever, and you got to get something done? Are you guys looking at new subcontractors, or what does that vetting process look like for you?
We're always looking at new subcontractors, and part of what just our philosophy is we want to grow as the Valley grows. So as sub trades grow, as our own people grow, in knowledge, in consensus, in all of it, in relationships, a lot of people come into that situation in disbelief because they have had the experience of, hey, I've got to be really hard and I got to be really stern, or people are going to take advantage of me.
All right.
But when you approach it truly as a true team effort,
the collaboration more. Yeah.
Yeah. The collaboration, and it does take them by surprise a little bit. It's kind of a little bit of disbelief.
Right.
But over the long term, as you continue to talk to them, when you sit side by side with them and say, hey, we got this problem, can we help you out? And you come out first asking to help them out, it really starts to build that relationship. And it's a long-term kind of a thing that's worked really well, even for the new people that have come in to that situation.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's probably, like you said, probably catches them off guard at first, but they almost probably thinking like, wait a minute, well, he's screwing me somewhere. Where yeah. No, but that's, I mean, obviously it's makes sense, but it's nice that there are people that actually can follow that program or follow that philosophy.
There is, but there's one byproduct that we never really thought was going to happen. And some people will take advantage of, hey, you can't make it here tomorrow. Can you make it here Thursday? Okay. And certain people will still take advantage of it.
Right.
We have a hard time. I think our hardest thing that we do here is we'll always try to give, we'll always try to work around to make it easiest for everybody. But holding people accountable in a nice way and saying, hey, I'm sorry, but I know we've helped you here and we've helped you here, but you have got to get done. That's been one of our biggest struggles, because sometimes you get people that will take advantage.
Yeah.
But our people are so wonderful about trying to help. It's really hard to hold that line sometimes. And that's something we work on all the time.
Yeah. So is that something that obviously you guys have been made aware of consciously as a company, like, hey, this is something we need to do better at? What are some of those steps you guys are taking to make sure that you guys are better about that?
We really try to get out to the field and be with everybody and all the jobs every week.
Make yourself seen and be present.
Yeah. And everybody has the right philosophy. We've hired people that are humble, hungry, and smart, and they love construction. Sometimes the things that we have to work on are that accountability line of how do you actually tell somebody they have to do something they maybe don't really feel like they want to do.
Having those uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah. So it's getting out to the field and not so much saying, hey, you're behind schedule, hurry up, and walking away. It's sitting there talking through the issue with them on a weekly basis. Hey, this is where you were last week. Where do you want to be next week? How can we get there? What are some of the roadblocks? Yeah. That's more of a conversation than it is a rigid type of thing to go through with them every week. We do try, there's 4 things that we try to hit for every superintendent, every project manager, and it's safety, quality, time, and cost. If you are being safe, you're moving forward. If you're doing it right the first time, the quality is there, you're not losing time. Mm-hmm. If you're on schedule, odds are you're not losing money unless you had something wrong with the estimate. So safety, quality, time, and cost has been a good 4-item breakdown that they can take a look at on their job every day. And if they're on those things, odds are their job's doing great.
Yeah, so I love what you said. You guys are hiring people that are hungry, humble, and smart. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Where are you finding people? What kind of backgrounds are you looking for? What does that hiring process look like for you guys?
We sit down. We probably have 2 or 3 interviews with people. We try to get them outside the office space. If they'll come out to a job site, we'll interview them at a job site just to get them in a real world situation. A lot of people are word of mouth. People that are already here that know somebody in the industry and go, wow, they really fit the culture. We don't like doing hired guns. It's always been, hey, I know somebody.
Right.
And when you have that kind of background of somebody that's worked with that person for a few years and know what they're really like internally, they really have a passion for construction. I mean, you guys know it. If you get into construction, it's nothing but problem solving all day long.
All day long, yeah.
And that wears on you. That'll bring you straight down if you don't love it.
Yeah.
So for us, it's really people that have the drive. The skills can be taught, but it's really wanting to dig in and get after it.
Well, not only that, but doing it that way of hiring people by referral, from internal referral, like you're almost adding a layer of accountability, right? Because if I'm working for somewhere for a certain number of years, and then I go to my boss and say, "Hey, you should really hire Brian. He's really good at this, this, and this," and there's almost a level of accountability on me that if he fails, I look like the jerk, right?
Well,
so
vouching,
not only
my reputation,
not only is he going to want to do a good job to validate the word that I put in, but I'm going to want to make sure that he does a good job to make sure that I, you know what I mean? So like I said, you're almost adding that extra layer, which is smart.
Well, go ahead. No, the buy-in for people, like you were talking about, we spend so much time together, especially on projects, and we see the worst and the best of each other. Mm-hmm. And having that knowledge that person's really rowing in the same direction that you are, it sure makes a difference when things go bad, and you can count on them. So that buy-in's huge.
Yeah.
Is it generally it might be a hodgepodge of both, but are you reaching out to some of your people and saying, "Hey, we've got some positions to fill here. Any idea of who we could fill?" And then they're giving you the referral, or are they coming to you and saying, "Hey, Doug, I got this guy. He's
can
coming
you find
from
a spot
here."
for him? Or, yeah.
It's actually a little bit of both. And one of the things that I'm going to try to work on personally over the next year or 2 years is more of an open book management style. There's a couple of really good programs out there that talk about bringing your people even more into the fold as far as financials go, what work is coming up, and really keeping them involved in the company. But what we're doing right now, just on a smaller scale, is everybody in the company knows exactly what jobs are coming up. And we keep a big list on the wall. Hey, these jobs are coming to an end. These jobs are starting up. And you can see the curve go, hey, we're going to be out of work in September. Let's start looking for work. Or, oh my goodness, we've got 10 potential projects. We're going to need to hire people. So just by having that list up in the air and everybody knowing what projects are coming up, actually both happen. Sometimes they'll say, hey, I know a great person, or I'm going to say, hey, do you know anybody?
Yeah.
And so it goes both ways.
It's funny you talk about that transparency. We've kind of spoke to that a couple of times.
That board,
the board for sure. But even the financial transparency, I feel like we're in such an information era right now where everybody wants to know everything about it. You know what I mean? And you almost, like you talk about 15, 20 years ago, I'm sure some of those other companies, the motto was put your head down and work because we told you so. You know what I mean? And now, because everybody is supposed to know everything and everything is so out there in the world, it's almost like if you're not being that as a company, you're almost looked at as like, well, why are they hiding that from me at this point? Because everybody else is out there sharing those kind of things.
Well, the program that we've got here, and each person is at a different place. But our core management team right now, we're bringing our accountant in every couple of months to go through the financials with our core management team.
Yeah.
And in the past, they've been project managers and superintendents, and now they're moving into that realm of operations. So I want them to understand what's going on truly in the financials. For each of our projects, this year, we just started going through the project cost with each manager, superintendent, and administrator. So they understand where the project costs are and how they're affecting bottom line overall.
Yeah.
And it's been a fantastic result because now they get a bigger picture. Hey, my job's losing money. I feel really bad. Okay. Yeah. They've seen where other jobs have lost money or made money, and it becomes more of a long-term cycle. Mm-hmm. They realize it's going to go up and down.
Well, it brings on a level of pride too, right? When they know that they're performing well, their job is performing well. Yeah.
They know they're impacting the bottom line of the company.
Yeah. I like going back to when you said you like to bring guys out on the job. I've never heard that before, like from an interview standpoint. I've never heard that before, but I immediately thought back. I was in the restaurants for a long time, and at one point I was thinking about leaving one restaurant and was kind of just looking at other positions. But the only time that's ever happened to me, I was brought into a restaurant and the guy sat me down at one of the tables during one of their lunch hours, and we talked for about 10 or 15 minutes. Then he's like, all right, well, why don't you just go check out the kitchen and we'll meet back here in a half hour, 45 minutes. So it's literally the lunch rush, and people are whizzing by me. They're probably thinking, who the heck is this guy and why is he in our kitchen? But like, you kind of sit back for a minute and then you realize that's been sitting there for a minute. Hey, one of you guys grab this and get this out to table 42? Can you take this thing? You know what I mean? Like, and I'm sure that, and you don't think that that's what he want, but that was just my nature, right? And I assumed that went well, but it's almost the same kind of situation. So I say that to kind of my question there is, are you looking for anything specific when you're walking them through a job and talking to them and doing it, or is it just to get them in that comfortable setting where they might be comfortable? Are you looking for them to like point out things or look at things or talk to you about things or ask questions or?
Absolutely. I really want to listen to them. And it's written on the back of all of our shirts, listen, plan, build. You have to listen to people first. So when you're hiring them, I really want to hear what they have to say. I want to hear what they talk about. Are they talking about, maybe they've never seen the project or that style of a project before, but if they're talking about what they're seeing and asking questions, I know that they're interested.
Yeah.
And, even to the people that we have that are project administrators who supposedly do all paperwork all the time, when they get out and walk, they're actually seeing where that RFI came from.
What the paper means on the ground. Yeah.
Absolutely. That submittal that has to get approved and why it has to get approved because drywall is closing in. It gives them a little bit better perspective of what's really happening. And it's a give and take. I get to listen to what they're talking about and what they're seeing. And it's a mentoring moment, if you will, to where you can give them some advice about what they're looking at and why it's important. But the same thing for the hires. You're getting to hear from them exactly what's on their mind. And you can really tell if somebody's got a passion for it as they're walking a job. Yeah,
for sure. You can probably see their eyes light up when they see things happening or they ask questions that are meaningful. Yeah. And it's not just, hey, how much are you going to get paid and what are my work hours as they're walking around a job, you know what I mean? And I think that's, I've never heard that from a construction standpoint.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And I think it's awesome. How long have you guys been doing that?
Since I started, and I'm gonna step back and tell you a story that really impacted things for me. And this is where it really all started. As I hit that first job after Jim hired me, Jim had left to go to another job, and a new project manager came in, and his name is Tim Marsh, and he was a ball of fire. Here I am, a year and a half out of school. I had to come up with a filing system. I owned it. I had everything dialed until he came to the job and took over, and he said it was all wrong. I'm like, what do you mean it's all wrong, you idiot? You just came in here. I know what's going on here. Well, he actually brought in another project administrator to completely go through all my files and set them up the way he wanted them. And, those were my files. That was the biggest thing I knew. That was my whole life, right? And come to find out, he was right. And he'd been doing it for years, and he knew exactly why he was doing what he was doing. And Tim and I, over the last almost 30 years now, have still stayed in touch. He's retired, and I'll still give him a call and say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? But that visitation of the site, walking the job, being out in the field, kicking the dirt, really seeing what's going on, you get a feel for it over the years. Is this project really on schedule? Is it really moving forward? As you look at the paperwork, the costs, and the job, those three things give you information that is just so valuable to know if you're going to be profitable or not. Are you pleasing the owner? Are you going to make it on schedule? And he drove that in to all of us for 30 years. And that was really where that philosophy came from.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, it's the first time.
Yeah.
First time I've heard that. That's awesome. Yeah.
So what is it from a management standpoint? What does your structure look like outside of obviously you? Who else is that decision-making process team?
So what we have right now is, and COVID threw a little bit of a hitch in what we wanted to do with the stock market going down. Some of the jobs went, some of them didn't go.
Yeah.
And so we restructured just a little bit, but in general, it's me. And then I have two people who are absolutely great in the field as project managers that really make a difference. We've worked together for 20 years. Got to bring them over from a previous company, and we've all worked together for so long, we know exactly how to communicate really well. And then in the office, we have two people in contracts and in accounting that really know their job. So from a financial standpoint, a risk standpoint, and a field standpoint, we all get together once a week, once every 2 weeks, and just talk about what's going on in the company overall. And the office has a good idea what the field's doing. The field has a good idea what the office is doing. We go through cash flow, go through financials, go through schedule, jobs that are coming up in bidding and closing out. So it's a weekly process for us just to stay on top of everything.
Yeah, no, I think it's cool that you guys are bringing them kind of management from all different aspects together on a regular basis to kind of make sure everybody's on the same page.
Yep. it makes a difference. And the perspectives of us, the 5 people that get together on a regular basis, no one has a problem saying what they really think. And
that's a good thing.
Yeah.
We have some pretty lively discussions. And then I'll get together with Mark literally every other day and just talk about what's going on. I already told you, communicate and collaborate.
Mm-hmm.
The more we communicate, the more somebody may have an answer, the more ideas we can gain just to maybe solve a problem a little bit better.
Yeah.
So it's real open communication. And I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it reminds me of Kobe Bryant had that thing where when he'd bring people on, he was, whether it was on a team or if he was running his business, he was looking for guys that would be able to disagree with him and be vocal about it, and not guys that would be like, "Oh yeah, that's great, man. You're Kobe Bryant." You know what I mean? And out of that tension at times and communication, so much can happen in such positive light. So, like for instance, you guys, I think it's a great idea. You're meeting with people who have no qualms about saying what they think, and out of that, I mean, man, your business is essentially doubled over the last few years. That's crazy.
And those disagreements, we've read a couple of books together that have talked about ownership and talked about trust. And you just can't read a book and all of a sudden trust somebody. Mm-hmm. We've all worked together for years, and we have been, my son's in the Army, and he was just taking over as a team leader, and he was a little bit worried about what was going to happen. So we were talking a little bit about leadership and that back and forth. And I said, Nolan, there's been some guys that have really taken you under their wing, and they've showed you the right way. And he goes, yeah, but I don't know these guys yet. They go through something called the box where they go out and do training. And it's 30 days of just, I mean, you're in the rain, you're in the hot, you're in the mud, you're in everything. And he said, Dad, those are the ones that are really those are the instances that are really going to tell me the character of somebody, if I can trust them or not. We just can't say we're going to trust each other. When you go through really, really bad times, you're going to see the people that you can truly trust that are going to be there, that are going to suck it up and just stand right next to you, hip to hip.
Yep.
And so the people that I'm talking about now, we have been through some absolutely horrific projects where we didn't think we were going to make it out. And that actually built that trust. We know we can stand together and get through anything.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah, that trust factor for sure.
Maybe talk about, if you could, I mean, you don't have to name specifics, but talk about maybe 1 or 2 terrible hurdles or situations that happened where you guys had to collaborate specifically and figure that out and get through it.
Well, I'll give you a couple. And one of them was the absolute lowest part of my life. And I won't go into a ton of detail, but it really hit bottom. We were out building Clovis North, which was a $130 million education center. At the time, it was the biggest school project in California. And I thought I had to have all the answers. I really, really did. And since I was the one in charge of the project, I put all the weight on my shoulders, and it started to affect my marriage. It affected all the people around me. If you talk to anybody that knows me now, there was the old Doug and there's the new Doug. And that was about the end of the old Doug. I didn't know what else to do except yell and scream to get what I wanted. We were 130 million in 30 months, 500,000 square feet. It was just a lot of pressure, and I probably put more pressure on myself than I did. But the 2 guys that are here with me now they were on that project with me. We all went through it together, and they saw me at my worst. And we were all under a ton of pressure. My wife and I went through trying to figure out why I was so upset. I had to apologize to a ton of people. I was just out of line, but I didn't really know how to handle that much pressure. So coming out of that, it was much easier now. I realized that people are going to be there, and we're all going to get through it together. So everything worked out. Everything's beautiful, but that was probably the lowest time. And then another one would have been, we just got too hot. We took on too much work, got too cocky, too overconfident, and thought, shoot, if we can do this, we can probably do that. And we didn't have the right structure in place. So a lot of that same core group of people had to come together And we had a lot of jobs losing money, a lot of jobs that were behind schedule, a lot of owners that were mad. And it was really all hands on deck to come together to make sure that the company made it through. And those were really good times. That was like, 6, 7, 8, right before the downturn.
Yeah.
We had so much work and so many things going on. We thought we were on top of the world until it all started to come unraveled.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
jeez.
So going back to, you mentioned a little bit how coronavirus and it's kind of changed some things for you. What did that process look like for you guys? How did you guys manage all of it? And I guess probably getting back into it now, right? I mean,
yeah,
kind of all starting back over again.
Through right now,
yeah. We tried to simplify everything as much as possible. Just for us, we wanted to have as many people at home as we could that were doing administrative type positions. Every one of our superintendents and project managers said, "What do you need me to do? I'll be out at the job site." Everybody jumped right into the social distancing, the masks, following the protocols. And I think for construction, it was probably a little bit easier because we have all those safety rules that are constantly changing.
Right, right.
But it was more what the people did. And with Zoom, we've been using it for 6 months or so before all this hit. I sent a meeting out. Within 5 minutes, everybody in the company was on a Zoom call. We were telling them exactly what was going to happen. And I guess as from a leadership standpoint, I wanted to have the answers. And I wanted to be able to tell them it was going to be okay. But I had to resolve myself back to that simple. I can tell you what's going to happen today. I can give you clarity today.
Not even today sometimes. Like some of those things changed multiple times in one day. But
Gosh,
News at 11. We'll find out.
Yeah.
But I really had to bring back, because as construction people, we like to plan, a week, 10 weeks, a year out. And literally we were going day by day. We were having a meeting with the company every day and letting everybody know this is what we know and this is where we're proceeding. Letting everybody know that they were going to have a job. And everybody dug in and did exactly what they were supposed to do. I'm so proud of everybody in that much pressure. I don't know that in my lifetime, I don't even know my dad's lifetime, if anything has happened that's been so big that has affected every single person in the country.
Yeah, so many people so quickly.
all at once. Yeah.
And there was no little owner's manual.
Right. How do we deal with this one? Yeah.
It was to communicate and collaborate. Anybody that had an idea of how to do something better, of where to get something, we changed our office operations around to where we could all be apart from each other. We over communicated with everything that we had to do. And just the messages that were coming out from the state on a daily basis, an hourly basis, changing what the protocols were. That was the hardest thing to keep up with.
Keep them up with them all.
Yeah. Everybody did a great job.
Have you brought everybody back into the office now since then? Are you guys?
Yeah, the habit has, nobody comes in and sits down in anybody's office anymore. They'll stand at the door and they'll ask the question and they move along. Everybody's got their masks if they need them, if we have to get side by side on plans. And it's the human nature of being able to just go, okay, this is what we got to do for a while.
Right.
We're on it.
Yeah.
And nobody's really complained about it. But I will give you this one. I did learn that everybody's got their own breaking point. I saw it at a different time from everybody, whether they had kids at home, and that was putting a stress of trying to do Zoom calls for school. Maybe a spouse that was out of work or wasn't working and they had to move their life around. Every single person had a personal and a professional melting point. Mm-hmm. And we really tried to make sure that everybody was doing okay on a personal level too during this whole up and down time.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that part is so important too, especially as an employer to kind of recognize and manage, because while you don't maybe control a lot that goes on personally, a lot of that stuff can affect your business. So making sure that they have the proper information and whatever else to deal with some of those things is big and probably helps them, or helps kind of create that trust factor, I guess, even more if they know that you're there for them on a personal level as well.
And I think a lot of people learned a lot about themselves, that they do have a lot more in them than they thought they did to be able to get through something like this. Much stronger coming out the backside. That's one of the
for sure. Yeah. What did productivity look like when you guys sent everybody home?
That's another thing. I'm so proud of everybody. I knew they were dealing with kids. I knew that they were dealing with parents, whatever their life situation was. And one of the biggest coaching moments we had for everybody is you don't have to work 8 to 5. And everybody said, I'm going to rearrange my schedule. I can only do meetings from 7 to 10 in the morning. Then I've got to do this with my kids and back the other side. So we accommodated everybody's schedule as long as we could communicate as a team. One of the suggestions that came from our teams was that we're going to do a check-in at 9 and a check-in at 3. We're going to get the project team together, and we're just going to talk through what's going to happen during the day and what happened during the day. And that we actually had one of our guys go, you know what? We're communicating better now than when we were on the job site.
Right.
Just because it was more focused and more formal. So
Yeah, no, intentionality.
We actually went through a lot of the same process too. I mean, that Tuesday or whatever it was, and when they said send everybody home, and everybody packed up their stuff and went home, but we did the same thing. I mean, it was daily at 2:30. We were having a meeting. Hey, what happened? What's planned for tomorrow? What's everybody's? And it was like you said, almost an over communication, and creates a little bit more communication than before. Yeah,
and in those days, it was. Initially there was a lot more to deal with because I think we were kind of coming into the pandemic and into this crisis and trying to figure out how are we going to address certain situations. But then after a while, it was like a marriage, right? You just kind of know where everybody is. I mean, these meetings started getting faster and faster because, we had it handled. So,
No, it's still an experience. And right now, with everybody doing what they're supposed to do, we are running pretty smooth. I guess our biggest concern is, we're coming up on a double whammy, right? The election is going to be coming up in November. This is all kind of supposed to be start dying down in November, but then the flu season's coming back. What's happening with the stock market? Is there going to be private work out there? Will schools pass bonds? Will medical? I don't know about your area, but medical work has really gone down in our area. Just because they don't really know what's happening with all the hospitals. So we're looking to fourth quarter right now of what work is coming up. Where can we be? Because right now our volume is good, through the third quarter. So we're starting now to look at what's going to happen fourth quarter this year and then into 21.
And how's that looking? I mean, is it just unclear right now? Or is it hard to forecast out?
It is. There's a lot of projects that people want to do. And everybody's kind of, holding their horses a little bit just to make sure, is the economy really going to come back? How are things really going to go before they go spend those dollars? Yeah. But there are projects out there. There's definitely a pent-up demand to go build things. But everybody's just being a little tentative right now.
Yeah, no, I can imagine it's especially if you have that money, if you're in that position to push the button and go and spend all the money, it's a little bit scary right now for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. What's so talk about maybe some of the challenges. I know we've talked about a few of them, but maybe from a daily basis, like some of the challenges you guys face or some of the hurdles you guys constantly have to try and clear.
Accountability was definitely one of them.
Yeah.
Our subcontractors, we talked about our people internally, but our subcontractors that are running 100 guys, 300 guys that are trying to keep everybody busy and making sure that their livelihoods are taken care of. They've reduced their scope of work quite a bit and their people quite a bit. So they're struggling a little bit trying to make sure that they can get to a job site on time. And we have to be a little bit more understanding that, hey, they can't get materials right now.
Yeah.
And we've had a couple, it's been really great, but there have been a few who said, hey, the plant shut down in the Bay Area. We just can't get materials out. Mm-hmm. So we bring everybody together and have to work through that. How do we work around getting those materials to the job site? And if somebody's a little bit short on manpower, we talk to some of the guys who do have the manpower and we say, hey, how can we make up for them? Everybody has had their turn in the barrel. When you look at over a 30-year career, you've seen subcontractors go up and down where they've had problems or when they've been really stellar. And when you can bring everybody together and say, hey, you've had your turn, how are we going to do this together? And they really do want to help out where they can. And that's made the day-to-day problems a lot easier to get through.
A lot easier to work with them. Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
So how involved are you guys, or I guess probably a two-part question. How involved are you and how involved do you want to be with the safety and some of the quality control of your subcontractors on a project basis?
Good question. The subcontractors that we use on our jobs are very proactive. It's not necessarily part of a pre-qualification, but we know as we're going through who has a good safety record and who doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have a huge problem, and I knock on wood right now, a huge problem with safety because they are so proactive. Most of the generals that are around this area are very, very high on safety. And we've got a very common path, I guess, for how we handle safety. So everybody comes on, they know that safety, it matters. The subs do a fantastic job of knowing what and when they have to do it. We've been through a few owner-controlled insurance programs as well as just standard jobs, and everybody adapts really well to the needs of the project. So that is one place that we have been very, very lucky to have some great people on the jobs that really do care about safety.
Yeah, and safe. Obviously, that's a huge part of it. What about the actual control, the quality control of the actual work being done? Do you guys ever have any issues with that, or how involved are you in maintaining that as well?
So very, and it goes back to communicate and collaborate. So every week we're talking about it, the normal stuff. We're talking about it in safety meetings. But as our superintendents and project managers or administrators are walking the job, they're all empowered to say, hey, make sure you got your hard hat on, or hey, make sure you're tied off. That ladder doesn't look right. We have our quarterly safety meetings, but for some reason, the culture of safety has really taken on a life of its own at Mark Wilson, and everybody is looking at safety as they're walking the job, just as a matter of fact. As you're looking at schedule and everything else, you're going, hey, that doesn't look right, remind somebody. And they're all so polite when they do it, and everybody's so polite back about actually fixing what the problem is.
Yeah.
They want to go home at night.
Right.
So
yeah,
really good culture.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how many, what's the workload for your project managers look like? How many on average are they working on at a time?
So I'll give you an example. Right now, we've got one project manager on a $30 million elementary school, and then we have two other project managers doing 3 projects each, usually between 10 and 15 million a piece.
So more about the size than actually the number. Yeah.
Yeah. So we look at the number of trades that there are, the complexity of the project, and then we divvy it up between our project managers.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So what's the future look like for you guys? I mean, what's the next 5 years look like for you guys from a size and standpoint and scope of work?
Well, if you would have asked me that last November, it would have been a completely different answer than it is right now. So I'll share what we were looking at last year. And
then let's just knock on wood that it all works out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But we do, like I said, we do a lot of schools. We build a lot of relationships in the commercial market where we know that we'll have work coming up. And we had our retreat in November and talked about all the great things that were coming up in 2020. And I tell you what, there was no better time for me to buy a company than January 1st of this year. So, and Mark kids me about it all the time that, boy, good timing there.
Yeah, as soon as you took over.
Yeah, it all fell apart. But one of the things that happened, we were supposed to have a lot of schoolwork. There were a lot of bonds that were going to be on the ballot in November. And even in March, there was 2 elections that were going to be for a bunch of bonds. And all of those tanked. There was only one bond that passed locally. So a lot of the schoolwork went away. And then COVID hit, stock market went down, everything kind of just really retracted. So in November, we had a great strategist that came in and helped us out and said, okay, great. You guys have a wonderful plan when everything goes exactly the way you want it to. What happens if none of it happens?
Oh, so you guys already planned for this almost.
Well, he made us. And,
well, I mean, no better timing. Wow,
No, Rick is absolutely fantastic at asking questions and turning things 180 degrees. And so we started working on our pipeline back in November, going into different markets that are in our wheelhouse to start just asking, hey, how can we grow the company? So if everything would have happened the way it was supposed to, we would have grown quite a bit. As it is, we stayed at our normal volume, just with the work that didn't come out.
Yeah.
So as what we're looking for future, we are going to just look at the projects that we can do. We're not going to plan. We're going to take it a day at a time, kind of like we did the start of COVID. We have clarity in very short terms, and those are the things we're going to go after. Very measured, very focused. Instead of trying to plan 5 years out, I would love to be at 60, 80 million a year in 5 years. That is a goal for us. We're going to have the people that will be able to grow to do that type of work. And I've got confidence in the people. They're going to be able to do it. But if the work is not there, we can work. We're going to grow as the valley grows. And I guess in this case, shrink as the valley shrinks. Yeah. And we will still provide the same service to everybody, but it's just maybe on a smaller scale. And everybody's okay with that.
Very cool.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like as you continue to grind and collaborate and communicate on a daily basis, as each day progresses into months and years, I think you'll find yourself in a very positive position. You know.
Yep. Yep, I agree with you completely.
Regardless of size too, because I mean, you could be at 30 million and be doing great and still positive, and or 15 million still. You know what I mean? You don't have to do 80 million to have a phenomenal business.
Right.
Nope.
Yeah.
I'll leave you with this. I know we're getting short on time, but I really want to create, and I've talked a lot about the people that are here. However far they want to go, I want to be able to give them that opportunity. So if somebody wants to go do a $40 million intermediate school, I want to be able to go get one so they can grow and they can do that project. If they want to say, hey, I'm good at my position right now and I just want to get better within that position, I don't care about getting promoted, I want to give them that opportunity to grow in quality rather than promotions.
Yeah.
So it's something that it works in this 60-mile radius for us here in the Valley to be able to be nimble and just flex with whatever the Valley does.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, before we let you go, we want to give you an opportunity to plug your social medias or your websites or phone numbers, or how the people can find you.
Well, we're definitely on Facebook, and I'm on Instagram all over the place. So you can look up my name on Instagram. Love posting pictures of all the projects and everything that we do. But there are a couple of different Mark Wilson constructions here in the Valley.
Really?
Yeah.
Literally just right there in the Valley. If there's two.
Right in the Valley. We get confused all the time. One of them's residential. We're commercial. But we're both great companies, you know. So it's website, Facebook, Instagram, just like everybody else. We're having a lot of fun. You can see a lot of good pictures of our projects and what we're doing.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Doug. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
thanks for taking the time.
Thank you. I love
speaking with us.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks for jumping on.
Love the stories. Thanks so much.
All right. You guys have a good one.
Have a good one, Doug. Thank you.
Doug.
All
right.
Hey, thanks for listening. And if you've made it this far, go ahead and give us a like or 5 stars or whatever means you like us.
Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. And check out our website for more video content and extras.
While you're there, shoot us a message if you want to be a guest. We'd love to have you on.
Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.